Hey guys, so I'll be talking about the composer Aaron Copland. He was born in Brooklyn, New York on November 14th, 1900. He was the fifth child of two Jewish-Russian immigrants. He was introduced to jazz, ragtime, opera, and the basics of piano by his sister when he was younger, Laureen, with whom he had a close relationship. He made up melodies as young as age 7 and put together small, cohesive pieces at age 12. He studied piano with a local New York teacher, Leopold Wolfson, from age 13 to 17, and then he took theory and composition lessons with Reuben Goldmark in 1917 to 1921. So in the summer of 1921, Aaron Copland left America and he went to the American Conservatory Fontainebleau, which is southeast of Paris, to study with Nadia Boulanger, which was his most influential teacher. And her influence is seen in Aaron Copland's incorporation of that French style of the 20s, which was pushing against Germanic, grandiose music and kind of leaning more toward clear, clean textures and sounds and stuff. So in 1924, he came back to the United States and he was inspired by his education in France, and he had a passion to advocate for American composers and to bring what's called serious music or classical style music into the lives of the normal American people. He got into the organizational side of that with the Yaddo festivals, the Copland Sessions concert series, and the American Composers Alliance, and some other things he was involved in. He was also a mentor of a lot of composers like David Diamond, William Schumann, Irving Fine, Lucas Foss, and Leonard Bernstein, to name a few. So during this time of the 20s and early 30s, he was composing in more of a modernist style, and he wasn't super popular yet, so he survived off small commissions and part-time teaching. After the Great Depression, his leftist, kind of communist ideals became more expressed in his music, like in the ballet Hear Ye, Hear Ye. Also as a result of the Depression and that kind of despair, composers wanted to write music that was more accessible to the common person, so this is kind of when Copland began to write his more famous, pleasing, less harsh modern sounding pieces, but more distinctly American sounding pieces like Rodeo, Appalachian Spring, Fanfare for the Common Man. So he was writing, composing, and by the late 40s he became one of the most prominent American composers. So he decided to fully pursue conducting in 1958, and he conducted his own works and others, and this went on for about 20 years. By 1972, he stopped composing because he felt his creative fruitfulness had come to an end, as if someone had simply turned off a faucet, as he said. However, he didn't stop conducting until 1983, but he showed signs of Alzheimer's disease, in his 70s, and it worsened as he got older. He passed from the respiratory effects of pneumonia on December 2nd in 1990. So Aaron Copland wrote for orchestra, piano, ballet, film. There are 4 different broad styles that consistently showed up throughout his musical expressions in his life, so that would be kind of jazzy sounds or references, and then there was the modernist sound, and then the Americana sound, and he would utilize the 12-tone sound. Some people separate these chronologically into style stages, and he does emphasize one style usually at different points, but they're kind of sprinkled throughout his life. And then a little bit more about his style. His rhythms tended to show syncopation and jazz influences and have characteristics of speech or poetry-like patterns. He had transparent textures, so they were clear and not clouded. He worked in smaller forms, with some exceptions, but he often wrote in 3-movement designs. And like Stravinsky, he pieced together sections. He said, "I don't compose, I assemble materials," so that's kind of how he wrote. And his melodies were considered, quote, direct and vigorous, so they weren't heavily flourished. He would usually involve a short, strong motive developed in his pieces. Aaron Copland had a lot of impact on American music, so he kind of helped America form its own characteristic style by incorporating folk tunes, American hymns. He took the everyday music that was shaping America and brought it into classical or serious music. His American style that conveyed scenes of open space and the West became traits of film scores, so that is still recognizable and used today in film music. And like I said, he was a mentor and he influenced a lot of 20th century composers, and he was an American music advocate in all of his organizations that he was involved in. So that's a general overview of Aaron Copland, and we'll talk more in depth on a few of his pieces in class. Thanks.